It's a very exciting day for EVs. This could be the car that changes everything in the EV space, the brand new BMW i5. Today I'm testing an i5 40 which has a 0 to 60 of 6 seconds and 335 horsepower. It costs £74,000. This one is 80 because it's got some stuff on it, so it makes it about the same sort of money as an EQE and 35 grand more than a Model 3 base. However, this is a BMW, and BMW don't do things by halves. Before we get into what is known as an interactive bar, yes, I would like to point out this new grille, which is very angular, much more angular than before. It almost is a U shape, the way these lights kind of come up. This is a beautiful brushed aluminium, very smooth, and my highlight is this dip in the bonnet here, which almost makes you feel like this is something from the M division. In case you want to get on the DVLA and get yourself a number plate, this is codenamed G60. G60 John. That's yours, isn't it? It's wider and longer than before, longer wheelbase. Just want to show you the side profile here, which has one line here and then it goes in. And then there's a line at the bottom that follows all the way to the back of the car to this rear line, giving you that impression that it's a wedge. Here's the back. What do we think of the back here? I think it's... What's interesting, is frying my brain a bit, is that it looks more narrow and higher than the outgoing 5 Series, yet it isn't. It's the design, it's the way they've done the angles. It's quite clever. Flush door handles. What do you think of that? Comments? Obviously it will be touch go, so this thing here will be your electric walk up unlock thing. That's actually what it's called, isn't it? It's called the electric walk up unlock thing. You can't hear this. You might be able to if you're wearing headphones, but there's a drone, and that's because I've put the iDrive into expressive mode. If I change it to relax, the interactive bar will change its color, the environment will change, and I will get a different sound. Here's your modes button, which then of course does change. In fact, if I put it onto sport, it might go off. There we are. Right, so that's your interactive bar. You can control the heating, your hazards, and that obviously makes the interactive bar flash. Then the interactive bar also has sort of strange little vents underneath, which are your air vents. They're controlled by these rubber, I don't know what you would call these rubber control things. There's no buttons, but you can, thank heavens, still control this new generation iDrive with a very nice iDrive controller. These are not haptic, you just have to kind of guess, but there's a little ridge on each one to tell you where you need to be. This is also a car that will famously take a selfie for you with the command, "Hey BMW, take a selfie." It's not activated. And now we drive. Because the BMW has always been the driver's car, right back from the early days with the E12. The very first 5 Series in 1972. DVLA E12 John. And the first thing I'm going to be looking for in this car is it noisy? How does it steer? How does it handle its weight? What's it like on roundabouts? And what is the soundtrack like? All of that coming up. Firstly, the handling. Now the battery is obviously sunk low, and that could be because it's an electric car, and the other reason for that would be because it's good for center of gravity. BMW have always been very famous about being exactly on point for center of gravity. And I tell you something, this feels an awful lot lighter than 2,205 kilograms. In fact, it feels lighter than something lighter than that. Very unusual. And the highlight for me actually, which is actually quite off-putting, is I'm looking at this beautiful game-like jewel, which is above the head-up display. And as I accelerate, more of the jewel gets coloured in. It's a marvel, this. By far the most interesting addition to the i5 is now you can do things whilst you are charging. The charging menus are great, but now you can play games by using the Air Console games. Software update is required, but they are very good. There's one called Music Guess, and you can use your phone as the controller. So if you've got your kids in the car, it's amazing. The games are really very good. They're a little bit better than the other company that does games. And you can also do YouTube, browser things, so you can watch stuff here in the i5 as well, which is really good. I know that the Tesla fans are going to rinse me and say, doesn't have Disney, doesn't have Netflix. Well, no, it doesn't, but it does have Apple CarPlay. Have you? This is the drive recorder. It records everything whilst you're driving so that you can send that footage to BBC's crash detectives on BBC Two. During my talking, you will hear a little beep sound like that. And it will keep doing it, is telling me that I'm doing 32 in a 30. This is the automatic speed limit thing, which has been brought in by the European Union. It's a European Union law, didn't we? Anyway, something for the comments there. You can switch that off. It's good to have it on to save your license and to remind you of speed limits on the road, because it's annoying and more unsafe looking for how fast you should be going than getting something on your head-up display. But every time you reset the car, it comes back on because it's law. I do like the door card, by the way. It's not just a flat door card. There's lots to look at here. So you've got sort of a spongy bit, a bit of design, then the interactive bar which changes. Bowers & Wilkins tweeter is there, but this is unusual because that would normally be where the tweeter goes. Stop talking about car stereos. No one cares. I actually like the indicator noise too. It's a nice tick. The BMWs have always had indicator sounds that are a little bit too quiet. You wonder why people are flashing you on the motorway. The indicator off. I can't hear it, mate. I was going to talk about the suspension because there's nothing new here in terms of the suspension, because it's the same as the outgoing 5 Series. That's interesting, isn't it? Building a car that it is its own platform, but borrowing bits from cars you know are successful. So if you've got one of the older 5 Series, this is the same. Taut, it's sporty. I'm doing 31, mate. Now I'm looking at something different on the head-up display, because now I'm in sport mode and the icon above is actually following my steering angle. Steering is great. So much natural flow and balance. Instant torque, even though it's only 6 seconds 0 to 60, feels an awful lot faster than that. In terms of the cornering, I'm delighted to say that there's now a roundabout which I'm going to go round at a reasonable pace, just to feel whether this car dips at all in the corners, and it absolutely doesn't. There is no dip here. Let me just put some power on. Well, okay, so I can't feel the dip at all. I can just feel the side of the seat moving towards me there. Whoa, this is really flat and sporty. There's actually a million things I want to try with this car. Not a million, but maybe close to a million, including, say, for example, the eye tracking lane changing technology, which is a rumor, but you move your eyes and the car will change lanes. And the driving assistant technology, well, that's obviously moved on. I want to really get some time behind the wheel and try that and compare it to the driving assistance from the Mercedes, which I think is the best. Then, of course, there's the 357 miles of claimed range. Not that it matters what the range is on any car. It's all about kilowatt hours used, and that is something you can only find out in a week's use or maybe a fortnight. For now, though, I'm going to say great first impression, and long live the BMW 5 Series.